Hello. This is my debut video, and currently I am nothing special than all the other content creators in this genre, but I would like to be something special. So this is my little debut video. I always loved this type of genre since I was a kid. I grew up with people like Scared Theater and Expo, Inside of Mind, Night Mind, especially my favorite. I already mentioned him, Scared Theater though. He is definitely my favorite. I grew up all through all his videos. Been watching for like 8 years now, I think. But he's definitely my favorite. Enough the chit chat. I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Hopefully. This video begins on the r/no sleep subreddit with the entry sent in by Gamble Frank. I thought a serial killer was following me home from school. What he actually was is so much worse, and he promised he'll be back. This happened a long time ago when I was a kid. My hometown, well, isn't the kind of place people roll postal cards about. It was small, tucked away, and chronically underdeveloped. The kind of town where the biggest news was usually the mill threatening layoffs again, or the high school football team losing another game. We were in a slow decline and everyone knew it. Even if they didn't say it out loud, hope was a scarce commodity, something people clung to in whatever form they could find it. And that's where the disappearances came in. It was a known problem, a quiet, persistent ache in the community fabric. Kids, mostly teenagers but sometimes younger, would just vanish. One week they'll be in class complaining about homework or daydreaming about getting their driver's license, and the next your desk would be empty. Your locker would stay shut. Whispers would start. The official line, the one that settled over the town like a comforting but treadboard blanket, was that they'd run away, gone to the little city, seeking a better life, adventure opportunities that our stagnant town couldn't offer, and people by the large choose to believe it. It made a grim sort of sense. Who wouldn't want to escape? Who wouldn't yearn for something more than the dusty streets and the recognized faces? But even as a kid, something about it picked at me. Why would everyone who left cut ties so completely? No letters home, no calls, not even a rumor, tickling back through a friend or of a friend. It was as if they stepped off the edge of the world. Families would grieve, of course, but then they'll latch onto that better life narrative. It was easier than confronting the void, the awful echoing silence that these kids left behind. Believing that they were thriving elsewhere was a blam, a way to keep the creeping despair of our town at bay. It allowed a silver of various hope. If they could make it out, maybe the town itself wasn't a complete dead end. I didn't have many friends, preferred my own company mostly. My walk from school was usually solitary, a straight shot down Main Street, then a turn onto Elm. A few more blocks through a quieter residential area. It was routine, predictable, until one afternoon. The day started like any other. School droned on. The final bell was a release. I slung my backpack over my shoulders and started the familiar trek. The air was that suppistic kind of late autumn cool, crisp but not yet biting. Leaves crunched underfoot. It was about halfway down Main Street when I noticed him. He was standing across the road near the boarded up storefront of what used to be a pharmacy. What caught my eye wasn't that he was there, but he didn't fit. Our town had its share of eccentrics, but this was different. He was wearing a suit, not like a work suit like Mr. Henderson, the bank manager wore. This was darker, a bit too formal, and it seemed stiff, like it wasn't made of normal fabric. And it was impeccably clean, which was an oddity in itself. In our perpetually dusty town, he was just standing there, not looking at anything in particular, but his stillness was alert, like a heron waiting by the water. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe a salesman who's taken the wrong turn, or someone visiting family. I kept walking. When I glanced across the street again, a block later, he was still there, but he moved. He was now parallel to me, keeping pace, but on the other side. A faint prickle of unease started on the back of my neck. It was probably nothing. Coincidence. I made the turn onto Elm Street. It was quieter here. Fewer cars, fewer people, out and about. I chanced a look back. He made the turn too. He was still across the street, but definitely following. The distance between us was the same, but the casualness was gone from his posture. He was walking with a distinct purpose now, his gaze fixed in my general direction. My heart started to beat a little faster. This wasn't right. Salesmen don't follow kids home like this. I told myself to be calm. Maybe he was just going the same way, but Elm Street didn't lead to any businesses, just houses, and eventually the old scrapyard on the edge of town. I picked up my pace, not quite running, but a fast, determined walk. I risked another glance. He matched my speed effortlessly. The suit didn't rip or bunch, it moved with him as if it were a part of him. His face was indistinct from the distance, shadowed, but I could feel his attention on me like a physical weight. Panic began to bubble up, cold and sharp. This wasn't a coincidence. I need to lose him. My mind raced. I knew these streets like the back of my hand. He didn't. Instead of continually straight forward to my house, I made a sharp, unplanned right onto a narrow alley that cut between two houses. It was a shortcut I sometimes used, overgrown with weeds and usually littered with overflowing trash cans. It smelled dumb and forgotten. I broke into a jog, backpack thumping against my spine. When I emerged onto the next street breathless, I looked back for a few glorious seconds. The alley was empty. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost buckled my knees. I'd have lost him. Then he stepped out of the alley. He didn't look rushed out or out of breath. He just appeared, smooth and silent, and turned his head, his gaze locking onto me instantly. The distance was shorter now, maybe half a block. I could see his face a little better. It was pale, unremarkable in features, yet utterly devoid of expression. No anger, no curiosity, just a blank, waiting stillness. The suit was still pristine. Terror, raw, unadulterated, seized me. This was not normal. This was wrong. My only thought was to run. I bolted. My house was still several blocks away, but in the opposite direction now, thanks to my detour ahead of me. At the end of this less traveled road lay the town's unofficial dump, the scrapyard. It was a sprawling mess of rusted cars, discarded appliances, mountains of junk, and treacherous piles of debris. Kids sometimes dared each other to go in, but it was generally avoided. It was vast, chaotic, and dangerous. It was also my best bet. I ran harder than I thought I could, legs pumping, lungs burning. The scrapyard's fence, a rockety chain-link affair, with several convenient holes loomed closer. I didn't dare look back. I could hear his footsteps, though, a steady, rhythmic beat on the pavement behind me, never getting closer, never falling further behind. It was a nervingly consistent sound. I dove through a gap in the fence, scraping my knee in the pain. Distant throb compared to the fear coursing through me. The scrapyard enveloped me, The smell was overwhelming. Rust, oil, decaying upholstery, damp earth, and something else, something faintly sweet and rotten. Towers of junk rose on either side, creating a narrow, winding pathway. I scrambled deeper into the maze, hoping the sheer complexity of the place would be my salvation. I dug behind a teetering stack of baled tires, heart hammering against my rib like a trapped bird. I strained my ears listening for his pursuit over the sound of my own ragged breathing. Silence, or what passed for silence in a place like this. The groan of a stressed metal, the rustle of unseen things in the weeds, the distant hum of the highway. Maybe, just maybe, I'd actually lost him this time. The thought was fragile flicker of hope. He wouldn't know these paths, he would just give up. I waited, crouched and trembling for what it felt like eternity, but was probably only a minute or two. The adrenaline was starting to ebb, leaving me shaky and cold. I had to get out of here, but not back the way I came. There was another, more dilapidated section of the fence on the far right side of the yard, closer to the woods. If I could reach that, I could cut through the trees and circle back to my neighborhood. Slowly, cautiously, I peeked through the tires. The narrow passageway was empty. I took a deep breath and started to move again, trying to be as quiet as possible, weaving through the metallic skeletons of forgotten vehicles and mountains of discarded household goods. The sun was beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long, disordered shadows that withered and shifted with every gust of wind. The light was turning that burnished gold that signals the end of the day. I was nearing what I judged to be the far edge of the scrapyard. I could see the ragged line of trees through a gap in the pile of twisted metal. Freedom felt agonizingly close, and navigated around a rusted out hulk of an old pickup truck, its windows long gold. And then I froze. He was just there, standing directly in my path, not 10 feet away, but the very gap in the fence I'd been aiming for. He was just there, as if he's been waiting, as if he'd known exactly where I was going. My blood ran cold. Every nerve screamed that there was no surprise on his face, no triumph, just the same blank, patient watchfulness. That impeccably clean suit seemed to absorb the fading light, making him look darker, more solid. He took a step towards me. A strangled sob escaped my throat. I didn't think I reacted. I spun around and plunged into the labyrinth of junk. Deeper this time. There was no plan, just a desperate need for distance. This time, I heard him coming after me immediately. It was faster, much faster. His footsteps weren't the steady, rhythmic pace of before. They were quick, unnervingly light, yet covering ground at a speed that didn't seem humanly possible. For someone in a suit navigating this treacherous terrain, it was like he was gliding over the debris. Panic called my throat, making it hard for me to breathe. I scrambled, tripped, caught myself, pushed onwards, my lungs ahead. My scrappled knee throbbed. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. I could hear him getting closer. I spotted a small dark opening beneath a pile of flattened car bodies, the kind that had been crushed into a grotesque rectangles. It looked like a shallow cave of rusted metal. By the second thought, I threw myself into the ground that warmed my way into the tight space. This was cramped, filthy, and smelled of stale oil. The damped earth, jagged edges of metal, pressed into me from all sides. I squeezed myself as far as I could. I could until my shoulders hit the unyielding cold ground at the very back. I was completely hidden, enveloped in oppressive darkness. save of a sliver of grayish light filtering through a small gap near the front of my metallic tomb. I held my breath, listening. Silence, then footsteps, slow now, measured, moving around the pile of cards I was under. I could hear the crunch of debris beneath his shoes, the occasional soft metallic scrape he was searching. Through the tiny gap, I saw a slither of his dark trouser pass by. Then again, it was circling. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I pressed my face into the dirt, trying to muffle the sound of my own terrifying gasps. Every instinct cheered at me to stay still, to become part of the earth and the rest around me. The sun was definitely going down now. The already dim light filtering into my hiding spot was fading. Rapidly, the shadows outside were lingering, merging, shadowing details. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but it carried an unnatural resonance that vibrated through the metal around me. Come out, on, kid. I paused. There was no need to hide. We can just talk. Talk. The absurdity of it was a fresh stab of fear. What could we possibly talk about? I stayed silent, frozen. I know you're in here somewhere. His voice continued to stay calm, but with the edge now, like a carefully sharpened blade. This yard isn't that big. I'll find you. He moved again, his footsteps methodically covering the area around me. My hiding spot, I could hear him shifting degree, the screech of metal on metal. Each sound sent a jolt of terror through me. The light through my gap was almost gone. It was becoming truly dark under the cars. And then a voice changed. Sweetheart, are you in there? It's mommy. My blood turned to ice. It was my mother's voice. Not just similar, it was her. The exact tone, the cadence, the little lit she had when she was worried. The sound of it was so familiar, so comforting. Any other context was now the most terrifying thing I ever heard. Baby, please come out. I'm so worried when you didn't come home. What are you doing in this awful place? Come out. It's getting dark. Let's go home. Part of my brain, the logical part, knew it wasn't her. Couldn't be. But the raw primal fear, coupled with the perfect imitation, a tiny, treacherous part of me wanted to believe in. Wanted to crawl out and find her there, to have this nightmare end. Please, honey, the voice pleaded, laced with a perfect imitation of maternal distress. You're scaring me. Just come out. Everything will be okay. Tears were flowing freely now, silent tears of utter terror and confusion. I bit down hard on my lip to stop myself from making a sound, tasting that comforting tang of blood. He was trying to lure me out. He knew my mother's voice. How? How could he know that? The last verges of daylight vanished. The scrapyard was now plunged into a near total darkness, relieved only by the faintest ambient glow of the distant town lights, which barely penetrated this deep into the junk. Under the cars, it was absolutely black. It was blind, relying only on sound. I thought I was doomed. He would find me. He was patient, methodical. It was only a matter of time. The voice, her voice, had stopped. There was only silence for a moment. A heavy, pregnant silence. Then a new sound, a low gurn, gutturally and pained. It wasn't human. It followed by a raspy, wet growl, like an animal in distress. It seemed to come out from the light outside my hiding spot. My fear reached a level I didn't know was possible. What was happening? The growls intensified, mixed with harsh, choking sounds. It sounded as if he was in agony, like darkness itself was haunting him. Then his own voice again, but ragged now, stained, filled with furious, desperate anger that was far more terrifying than his earlier calm. Damn it all, the light gone too soon. Another pained snarl. Then clingingly clear, his words cut through the night, seeming to echo in the sudden stillness. I will find you eventually, kid. Just in another day, perhaps. There was a strange rustling sound then, like dry leaves skidding across concrete or sand pouring from a height. It lasted only a few seconds, and then nothing. Absolute silence. No footsteps, no breathing, no paying grounds. He was gone. I stayed under that, huddled in that metallic coffin for what I felt like hours, too terrified to move, too shocked to process. Eventually, the camping in my lungs and the desperate need to escape the crushing darkness forced me to act. Trembling uncontrollably, I slowly, agonizingly pushed myself from under the cars. The scrapyard was utterly dark, save for the slither of the moon that had risen. I stood there, shaking, expecting him to reappear at any moment, but there was nothing. No sign of him. Where had he been standing, or where I had thought he had been? In the sounds, there were just dust, a faint layer of something dark on the ground, already being disturbed by the night breeze. It looked like a patch of expectantly dry soil, out of place amongst the damp earth and rusted metal. I didn't expect to examine it. I ran out of the scrapyard the way I came, not caring about the noise I made, fueled by the primal terror that I lent my legs impossible strength. I ran through the dark streets, not stepping, until I slammed through my front door, gasping for breath, collapsing in a heap in the hallway. My parents were frantic. I was covered in dirt, grease. My knee was bleeding, my clothes were torn, and I was hysterical. I tried to tell them. I blabbered out about a man, a suit, a scrapyard, his voice, my mother's voice, but it came out as a jumbled, incoherent mess. They thought I had a bad scare, maybe got chased by a dog or had to run in with some older bullies. They cleaned me up, bandaged my knee, and put me to bed. I never told them the full truth. How could I? How could I explain that the man who chased me, the man who surrounded my mother, sounded like my mother, but turned into a dust when the sun went down? They would have thought I was crazy, maybe, but I knew what I saw and I knew what I heard. That thing in the suit wasn't just a serial killer or a kidnapper. It was something else, something that I couldn't stand the night or pronounce, couldn't exist without daylight in this physical form, something that haunted in the full light of the sun. The disappearance of our town, it started to see them in a new light, where they all just kids running away for a better life, or had some of them like me taking the wrong turn on their way home on a day where the sun didn't set a little too quickly. Had they been lured by familiar voices out of hiding into the waiting darkness? The thought of it made me sick. That promise, I will find you eventually, kid, just in another day perhaps, just haunted me ever since. I moved away from that town as soon as I could. I tried to live a normal life, but I'm always aware of the sun. I didn't like being out alone when it was a full day. And sometimes on a quiet evening, when the shadows grow long, I think of hearing a faint rustle, like dry leaves or sand. I don't know why it seemed to turn to dust. I don't know what it was, but I know it was real, and I know it wanted me. The gaps in our town weren't just kids leaving for the city. Some of those gaps were turned open by things that thrive under daylight. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. Clearly, I don't know how you're able to sit through some of the mistakes I made while recording, but it is not seven, well, almost 7 in the morning, and I filmed the entirety of this at the middle of the night. So I was pretty tired while doing this, but the middle of the night is basically the only time where I can do this, where I can get like a peaceful recording studio, as I obviously have family, and is not really ever quiet unless it's at nighttime. So for the most part, there probably will be mistakes in my speech, but if you can sit through that and the mistakes are never, thank you. I mean, it means a lot to me if you actually got to the end of this. But even if you stood for a couple minutes, like 5 minutes, I still appreciate you. And I always will. Well, this is the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll leave a little bit of the gameplay still, and we're completely stuck on this part. Like, you are supposed to be on the game. If you don't know the game, you usually get stuck on many parts, but yeah, there's nothing to that. But I'll just leave that little part there in case anyone actually wants to watch it.